The first encounter is very easy but very boring. The quickest way to do it is you have 4 rounds to dunk the symbol, and the best way to do this quickly is just to kill the wizards and move on. The wizards are actually the enemies that progress the puzzle, so just kill the wizards and keep going until you see the symbol. I highly recommend encouraging here because it's a quite open area, and use your sparrow whenever you can, but be careful not to die because you can obviously get blown up on it. So after that, you're gonna have your first traversal. Just keep encouraging when you can, and there is one water section you can speed up. On the first fall into the water, you can actually drop all the way down on the left till you see the last bubble on the floor, and that one bubble will actually be enough for you to survive, so you'll have enough time to drop all the way down. The final water drop, you can also encourage into it just before it so that you can get a small boost of momentum into the water. When you get to the open area where you have the ships spawning in, you can actually just keep encouraging and ignore everything there. Just be careful when you're encouraging over where they are wizards, so you can wait for them for a little bit or activate invisibility and then just run by them. Also make sure to kill the Reaper because they are quite annoying to deal with in terms of ignoring them, so just to be safe, kill it. Right, second encounter, Ecthar. This is your first boss and he's quite a challenge to deal with. So it's a small chaotic arena, and I highly recommend using 2 arc and 1 void resistances for defense, being mainly because everything there is arc, but the boss does deal void damage, so just to have some sort of defense against him. A shotgun with 1-2 punch works really well on the first 3 knights and ogre to activate the first stage of the encounter. Then when you go underwater, I highly recommend using a map with symbols and their locations. I will link the map in the description that I used to move quickly around the underwater section. Now a big tip is that mobility actually does impact your walking speed underwater, and therefore I highly recommend increasing it by 2-3 tiers. And if you are clueless for a second, you get mixed up or stress has eaten you, he will definitely catch up and catch you off guard. So do not let that happen. That increase in speed really helps. And also, to efficiently get out of the water, you want to actually walk into the burst of air that launches you up. You don't want to jump into it, because if you jump, you're not getting the full momentum boost. There's a good chance you'll stop halfway through and you fall back down, and at that point you're essentially dead, because if the guy hits you, then you won't be able to get back up in time, or if you started to crack before, you will just die. For the wizards, I highly recommend just keep using your 1-2 punch or a heavy machine gun to deal with them quickly. Remember that the buff you get from killing the wizards doesn't reset. Make sure to get all 3 of them and be quick when dunking. For damage, now this is a very brutal short damage phase, so we need to get this set up quickly and efficiently from the beginning. So what we're going to do is we're going to need Arbalest. So when the boss enters his super form, the quicker we get rid of his shield, the quicker he will leave his super form, because he hits really hard, especially when the shield bounces back at you, even during your super. And then to start the damage safer, if you're using a prismatic subclass, I highly recommend using a glacier grenade for safe cover. This is because you throw the grenade in front of him, but not too close so it actually deals damage, and the boss is just tall enough for you to headshot him with the Arbalest, meaning his shield bounce is going to hit the crystal, which makes it really easy to set damage, and then after that you can just use your super and then start with damage. Now I don't have footage to show this because it took me way too many attempts to come up with this idea, and I just wasn't bothered hitting the record button every single time, but it really takes up a lot of weight off your shoulders. Now for damage, I recommend just sticking with shotguns and abilities, because it's too chaotic for you to use explosives here. Unless you're a warlock with a well, then you're good to use with anything. Even swapping into Lament from Arbalest is also a good choice, because again the wells can provide you with enough safety. For hunters, I recommend using Liar's Handshake with 1-2 punch shotgun. That way you can have really good damage whilst also keeping your Arbalest on you, so you don't need to swap anything, so it gives you good healing, good damage. And then for Titan, use Concentration with Arbalest with Centoceps or Warm Gods. This is because even though it got nerfed, Concentration itself is still far more consistent to deal damage. On top of this, during Season Heresy, Linears provide a weaken debuff for you. So if you spam your Arbalest just one shot every couple seconds on all of the characters, you'll have an easy source of increasing your damage. If you're using Lament, I highly recommend putting on the Lucent Blade mod on your chest, and the combo is 2 light 1 heavy into 2 light attacks. For supers, Will and Warlock, Silence and Skull and Hunter for extra damage and damage reduction, and for Titan you use either Thunder Crash or Twilight Arsenal. Glacial Quake is also very good, but it is much more hard to set up because the boss keeps moving. For the second traversal after Ecthar is very short and very quick. Just keep EP ranging where you can, and once you're in a long haul, first you're going to kill the wizard and then the shrieker, and then all you're going to do is just stick to the right side, and then halfway through travel to the left and go all the way to the end. Halfway through my experimentations, I realized that using a class item with invisibility makes this even easier because you can just activate invisibility and then you can just run all the way through to the end, ignoring everything. So that method is much more safer than what you're seeing in this footage. When you get to the final boss, a lot of people complain that this part of the dungeon is the worst because it takes too long to set up and it takes a long time in general. I do kind of agree with that, but with decent survivability, it really makes this a very easy encounter because you can rush it. So Solar Hammer Titan with Infinite Restoration, Solo Warlock with Karnsteins, again Restoration, and Prismatic Hunter with Invisibility, and Golden Gun for really good boss damage works fantastic here. I highly recommend using 2 Arc Resistances and 1 Void Resistance just because the boss deals Arc damage but the acolytes around you deal Void. For the cave section where you kill the mini bosses, I highly recommend using shotguns and or snipers to deal with them quickly. The only real threat is the Titan because he has a shield throw that can bounce. A sniper, especially with chill clip, works fantastic on this guy. Anything from long range will work on him really. For damage, I highly recommend using Arbalest to get rid of the shield very quickly and then combine it with a heavy legendary linear, since in this current season, Heresy linears are very powerful that apply a weaken and you can also get some ammo back, increasing your overall DPS. Sleeper Simulant is also a very powerful option as it does a lot of damage, and that's what I used because my aim isn't very good and therefore body shots are quite forgiving. For extra safety, to break the shield if you're not using Arbalest would be to use your super on the shield. This does result in 1 or 2 more phases, but it's a much more safer option. For me it was 4 phases with Sleeper Simulant without the use of Arbalest, so it was quite solid on the Titan. For Warlocks, I'd use a Will with Arbalest and a heavy linear, since you have amazing survival, so you get to damage straight away. On Hunter, I'd use a Golden Gun with Arbalest and again a heavy linear because you'll have quick access to damage and great precision damage from your super. And for Titan, I'd use the Throwing Hammer super on Solar with Sleeper Simulant to make use of Radiant. This gives you a really solid boost and does make up for not using Arbalest, and Sleeper Simulant also shreds through the shield, so if you do miss a lot of your hammer throw like I did, shooting the boss with your sleeper will actually make up for it. You can also run Arc Titan because of the bolt charge from the barricade, and that will do way more damage, but you'd have to play into the Thunderclap for healing from nearby adds to survive. A very important detail, the boss will only spawn mobs during the rune identification process when they reveal after every rune completed. This is very important for you to know because when you complete a rune, you want to turn around, deal with the mobs, and then proceed. After you've done all the runes, when you kill the mini bosses, there will be no more mobs, and only after you finish the damage phase, the mobs will start to spawn again. The moment you deal damage, deal those mobs immediately. For safety, you can actually go into the water caves, regain some health, avoid the mobs, and then leave and then come back again if you need to. Strafing your left and right, very recommended for damage phase, so that the boss won't melt you. And finally, the Hive Knights only spawn at the top left and right areas within the arena, which means if you deal with them once, you will never have to deal with them again until you finish your damage phase. And that's all I have within my quick and to the point solo flawless Ghost of the Deep Dungeon guide. I hope you enjoyed it, and now go get that solo flawless clear.